Hello, ladies, and welcome back to Celebrate You. Today we have a very, what's the word? Successful, impressive, kind, amazing man as a guest. He is Mike Amato. And Mike, before I go into you, ladies, so basically, Mike, he's at the top of his game when it comes to banking and when it comes to growth, personal growth and career growth and mentoring and all that. He was an executive in Barclays. He was the head of global product and distribution. And then he had like different roles, acting as the non executive director in the board of Santander UK and Tandem Bank, a fintech in the UK. We met in tandem, and since then, like we've had an amazing coaching, friendship, professional relationship, and I am absolutely honored to have Mike in the show. Hello, Mike.
Monica, hello. What a wonderful introduction. Thanks so much for that. And I'm honored to be here too. As you said, we've known each other for quite a while now. And we started as colleagues. I was on the board. You were on the staff of Tandem Bank, and we became friends. You distinguished yourself to me not only just with your bright and sunny personality, you lifted the entire organization on your wings,
Oh,
but you wrote a thank you note and a goodbye note to every single employee of Tandem Bank when you left. And that is unbelievable compassion and heart, and they talk about you to this day. So anyways, it's a pleasure to be here on your blog, and I'm rooting for your success in anything you ever do. You can count on me.
thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. Awesome. So let's start with, can you tell us a bit about your story?
Okay, so I won't go back to the day I was born because that might not be very interesting. um, but as you said, Monica, my career has been 35 years at executive management. I was the president of a bank in the United States, Washington Mutual Bank. I worked there for 24 years. I started by answering the telephone, and I ended up being the president of the division. And it was incredible. 24 years ride from literally the phone to the boardroom. So I learned a lot of things in the way. When we started off, the organization was like $3 billion in assets. When I left, there were $350 billion in assets. So we had incredible growth, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about a lot of people that I got a chance to work with, and so when what I learned most importantly was, as we grew both by organic and inorganic means, Monica, I learned that values are the core of the ecosystem. So we talked about corporate culture, and I became very passionate because when we did something like 32 acquisitions, I was the first guy in to talk about who we are, what we do, how we do it. And we talked about culture right off the bat. And now I call it the C word because everybody talks about how important culture is, and they actually do very little work on cultivating the right culture. So I'm starting to use the word ecosystem now. But I learned the value of values in creating that ecosystem. And when the values at that organization shifted, I can't compromise my values. I didn't like the move into subprime lending, and I left Washington Mutual Bank. Stock was at an all-time high, but the warning signs were there that I didn't want to be part of it, and I left, and I went to go join Barclays in London, in the UK. So I lived there for 6 years, and boy, did that change my life personally and professionally. So as you mentioned, I was a head of product and distribution. So look, quickly, what does that mean? It means globally in charge of multi-products, mortgages to investments to current accounts and savings, etc. So multiple products for multiple segments, for premier customers, personal customers, premier customers, and local business, and then multi-channels. So this included all channels, all 3,500 branches and 30,000 people in call centers and then the internet, the beginning of the internet banking, not the beginning, but the evolution of internet banking. So of online banking. So multi-channel, multi-product, segment role. So it was fantastic to apply my experience to that, and then learn how to lead a team of 30,000 from a crisis. Just like in our personal lives, Monica.
Wow.
Crisis causes change. A lot of times it takes crisis for us to change. A lot of times, and I imagine there might be people
Yes.
listening in today who nod, yes, I like it. Yes, I like it. Yes, I like it. I'm going to go look at more inspirational statements and messages on Instagram. But my feet don't move. My head nods and I lean, but my feet don't move. I don't really change until that crisis comes along. Well, at Barclays, we had a big crisis. And right after I got there, we had a BBC called me and said, we're going to be on a whistleblower program on Sunday night. They had 3 reporters that were embedded into our system for over 9 months, and they recorded video recording and audio recording of meetings and everything to show how bad Barclays was at mis-selling. And so that was a welcome to the UK moment. Yeah. In the United States, that wouldn't have been legal. That was my first reaction. This is not legal. Well, it's the UK, and it was legal. And by golly, they did run that. They did run that. So look, what happened was the organization had also drifted from its stated values. So I was able to just come in and came in at the right time. And in trying to address the issues at Barclays, the issues that I saw just from observing the first few months, when this came along, it was the best thing that ever happened to that organization. It was traumatic. But Monica, what it did was allow us to say, we need to reset. We need to revisit. We need to reboot. And we need to reconnect to our core values. In fact, because of that, we called it retail, and we launched Real Retail. And 30,000 people, give you a couple of metrics. It was so fantastic. And I know this is the longest introduction ever, but I want to tell you a little.
That's fine. It's wonderful.
Okay, thank you. It's important to me to set the foundation later. But so what happened? Employee engagement was the lowest I'd ever seen at about 64%. In 18 months, we moved it to 92%, the highest of any bank globally. That's 30,000 people. We had people respond to surveys, maybe about 70%, 69%. That response rate went up to 95% when we did the transformation. Things like sales per seller went from 9 to 23 sales per seller per week. That's 10,000 sellers. I'm not talking about 5 people who worked harder. 10,000 sellers. Oh, by the way, our compliance with our sales quality and reputation with the regulator actually improved while sales and productivity went up. So there's a lot of things I just want to put out there, that there's an ROI for changing the culture. And let me tell you, that's our ROI, and it changed it dramatically. We're still the only we're the only financial institution in the UK to actually pull PPI before the regulator shut it down. We pulled it 2 years before the regulator shut it down. So that's value. And so that's a core of a lot of what I want to talk about today when I talk about who I am. And so from that point, I went into the non-executive director roles that you mentioned at Santander and at Tandem. I left Santander a few years ago. I just resigned from Tandem because I'm focused now on doing some things. Number one, I started a winery. So I'm a partner in a winery here in Washington State. Yes. And it's a blast. I'll tell you, we've got 26 acres of grapes, and we've got award-winning wines. So there's that part of my life, which I love. There's the mentoring. You mentioned, of course, I know that you're coaching. I know that you're an excellent coach. And what I do is I'm growing my mentoring business. Rather than sit in the board meeting and talk about some of the issues that are the board's responsible for overseeing in terms of risk management and risk mitigation and risk appetite, etc. I want to focus on helping people as a mentor, helping them grow their careers and grow their success. And then at the same time, I also do advisory work for organizations who maybe they're facing that same crisis, or they want to avoid that crisis. And so I talk to them about how to change that ecosystem for all the employees. So it's like mentoring for a massive group of people, because I want to make the world better for them. I want to make their employer better for them, the ecosystem better for them. Or it can be for one person at a time. And my clients tend to be women. They tend to be women who quite honestly, Monica, they fit your profile in terms of people that are high achievers. They're trying to get balance in their life. They want to get success in a world that's not always fair to them. And how do they win, given the fact that they didn't get to set the rules? They're in a lot of times in male-dominated industries. And so we talk about how to do that. And being a mentor allows me to give advice, not just counseling, not just have them discover their own truth, but also allows me to give some advice and experiential things, which really helps when you've got some tactical issues that you might have to face every day. So there you go, Monica. That's me.
That is absolutely amazing. And I just want to add on the last bit that you said, I think one of the things that distinguishes you from any other mentor, let's say, or coach, is that you come with that practical point being in the industry. So you know the context. Like when you were mentoring me, I didn't have to explain to you anything. You just like got it. So that makes your advice and mentoring even more powerful.
I love that. Thanks for saying that.
Thank you.
It's so important to me because it is practical. So real. I learned early on that real intelligence is taking very complex concepts and making them simple and applicable. To me, there's a plug in a socket. We got to put the two together. I'm not sure I need to know about all the wiring or all the things. And certainly engineers need to do that. But in my roles, I've always had to say, how do we make things work? How do we make sure that we take complex things and bring them to life? So I love bringing it to life. And what I love doing is helping people not just become motivated, but to discover their inspiration. So I work with people, the office of the COO for a cryptocurrency exchange. It might be a cosmetic salesperson in the Middle East. It could be somebody at a bank in the UK or in the US right now. So it's any industry really, because the needs of the people can be very, very similar. And the key is to unlock that that inspiration and apply a little motivation too, which is a formula that we've actually been applying pretty quite successfully. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But Monica, did that make sense in terms of the
Mhm.
not just banking, but it's actually almost where any place anybody works.
Across, yes, yes, that makes a lot of sense. So, what made you change, kind of like do that career change, and now focus more on this type of work?
Um, the honest answer is that the ability to impact the organization from the board, you think it's really great when you first begin. In reality, it's not very great. All I get a chance to see every month is the information that's shared with me by the exec. And and being an executive who had to present to the board, I know there's a few tricks. I know you want to to look at the shiny object here so you don't see the issue over here, because it's not natural for any manager to come before the board and say, wow, we have some real challenges. We have some real issues. We have some things that, frankly, we could use your help on. No, everything is good. Everything is always just fine. And when,
Perfect.
have you guys ever tried this? Oh, no, no, no. I had one of the executives from Santander tell me one time, you never get response rates. Nobody ever responds to those surveys over anything over 70, 75%. That's just how it is. So, no, it's not. No, that's how it is, Mike. You just don't know. I do know. And it can be 95%. And I'll tell you how. No, no, no. Everything's fine. We got that covered. So the ability to impact the organization and really change the ecosystem is actually quite limited from the board. And so it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I had a lot of development to do as a board member, by the way, because I kept wanting to see the world through the eyes of an executive, and it's not that same. So I learned a lot, and I had a lot of fun. Also had a lot of tough days, but went through some great experiences. But that part of my life, not that I wouldn't do it again in the right circumstances, but I'm so much more happy to have an impact with somebody, work with them on how to grow their career and how to link their career to their personal life. There is a way. Invariably on the fourth call, by the way,
Mm,
people say, gee, Mike, does this apply to my personal life as well? Answer is yes. It's the same process. The same process.
yes.
So I love doing that. So that's where my career and my passion's taken me.
Yes, and I can see you lighten up. It's like, yes, your eyes blink, blink when you start talking about it. So that's amazing.
It lights me up, really. It does. This is my second interview today. I did one at 3 a.m. this morning, and now here it is,
Oh,
30 p.m. But I'll talk about it all day long because it's really important. I think, look, when you think about it, executives have all these resources. They've got consultants, they have advisors, they have all sorts of people coming in telling them all sorts of things, right? Well, the company rests on the middle managers. And to be quite honest with you, we didn't discover at Barclays the talent that was below the surface until we gave some opportunities for women to start moving up in the organization. And all of a sudden, my board, which was one female and 11 males when I first started, when I left, it was 6 and 6. And giving women the chance to shine made a massive uplift, made a massive difference. And so that does light me up, and I'll talk about that all day long.
Awesome. I love that because that's exactly what we want. Like, this is not a women's empowerment and changing the workplace podcast, but it is part of that. I think that's what inspired me to also start helping women, because like I've had so much support throughout my career to shine and also to go through the challenges. And I think it's important for experienced people, whether it's you or me, you don't have to be like at the top of the board to help others, to help younger generations of women have a better life at work and life.
That's exactly right. There has to be a compassion component to it. It doesn't matter level. Doesn't matter. I mean, sure. There's some situations that's really, it's nice to have somebody say, okay, you should maybe look left and not look right, or here's how you manage a bad boss, or here's our plan for firing your boss. I've done that before. As I've had a challenging boss. Took me 2 years to become his boss, and I had a chance to fire him. So that happens. So that does help, but people that reach out to you, for example, Monica, they're just lucky. They're just fortunate. I shouldn't say lucky. It's fortunate, because it's the compassion, it's the heart that you bring to it. And it's that voice, when it's our own, when we think about helping ourselves, it's really hard to listen to our own voice. And so many times you have given me some fantastic advice in terms of doing certain things or seeing things a different way. It's really just organizing the world around us and seeing it in a whole different light. And that's something that you're an expert at doing. So I'm positive that your clients benefit from your advice and your compassion.
Oh, thank you, Mike. But it's spot on. It's about perspective, because that's what you do with me too. I'm like, chaos, and then I speak with you, and it's like, oh, I'd never thought about it like that. You actually have a frame. It's like awareness, perspective. Those are the two things when I think of you. It's like, yeah, it's about perspective, and that's like so powerful. So yeah, let's start going into it. I'll let you expand more on your frameworks or the challenges that you help women with.
Good. Good. Let's talk about that for a second. I'm trying to think of the best way to introduce it, because right now I'm in the process of writing a book on toxic corporate cultures, and the title of the book I think is going to be "There's Another Way to Win." And the other way to win is say, don't put profits first, put people first. Now, people write about this all the time. They talk about it all the time. On LinkedIn, you can see all these articles about it, but it does not happen. You guys, it does not happen. And all of you know it. The emperor has no clothes in your own company, right? So of course you have to make profits, but the way to make profits, actually profits beyond what the board is even courageous enough to expect, if you do it through people. So there's another way to win. And I'm in the process of writing that book. And what it's done is forced me to kind of think about things a little bit more, saying, how would we do certain things? And how would we approach certain problems? And what is a formula? Because I want to say there's no formula. I respond to every situation. When I was an executive and I just thought of the answer. Well, after a while, you start looking at it, and especially when you have to write it in a book, there is actually a little bit of a process. And just the other day, I came up with the formula that I think would be really, I hope it's really helpful for everybody listening to this. And it's so simple. It's so simple, but there's a lot more meat that goes on these bones. But here you go. The whole notion about when you think about growth or success, it's a mathematical equation. And by the way, almost everything in life is a mathematical equation. This one's quite simple. You have motivation. And what is motivation? Motivation is caffeine. It comes from the outside. Motivation can be a powerful force in getting us excited about something, see something differently, create excitement around a cause or a purpose or an event. And that's why it's proliferated on social media. In fact, right now you have 13-year-old boys and girls throwing out the wisdom of the ages like ketchup on French fries or chips. And it's like all the wisdom of the age, so much so that it becomes a cliche to see another beautiful quote about Rumi, from Rumi, pardon me, which could change people's lives, but it's just another bit of noise because we're all trying to motivate each other. Now, has it really changed anybody's life? Well, I hope so, but I suspect motivation from an external source is a little caffeine hit. It's a nice little buzz, but then it falls down. A lot of the motivational seminars, people leave sky high. 2 weeks later, their life is the same because it didn't apply to anything. They didn't plug it in anywhere in their life, maybe. So, motivation. Now, plus, what do you add motivation with? Add motivation to inspiration. And we're going to put that in brackets like any equation. Motivation plus inspiration, that sum. Inspiration, inspire means to actually take air into our lungs. That's the actual technical definition of inspiration. Inspiration comes from within. This is what people are looking for when they say, what's my life purpose? Why am I here? What do I want to do? What gets me excited? You're not going to find it from somebody like, I'm sorry to say, Monica, you or me saying, you can do anything. We got this together. That's motivation and it's fuel, but by itself, it doesn't do anything. You light the fuse by getting that inspiration that says, you know what, through this conversation, I'm going to apply some motivation to discover what inspires me. When you unlock inspiration plus motivation, the sum of that is a powerful force, and now you're ready to go. But you got to multiply that sum by something. And the multiplier, and there's a lot of ways to say it, but determination, grit, it's persevering. I was watching Undercover Billionaire the other day on TV, and they're supposed to take $100 and start and make $1 million business in 90 days. Well, they started making a barbecue stand. And the barbecue stand ran into all sorts of problems: personnel, people, product, everything you can think of. So the undercover billionaire came on and they interviewed him later, and he said, we were facing a crisis there where we actually have to do more than the competition. We have to go further than the competition. We have to be able to go through the pain and fight through it. And he described what it meant for their stand. Well, it showed in 90 days it was worth $1 million. The stand became a restaurant, became a famous restaurant in the city. So his point was determination, grit, sticking to it is the multiplier. It's multiplier force, the force majeure that when multiplied times that inspiration and that motivation, it creates a phenomenal thing called success. It's success. It creates growth. It creates a new you. And there's a way to go through a process, Monica, where we can talk about how do we find these things? How do we walk through these things? Oh, and by the way, while we're doing it, how do we deal with issues? I was prepared in the call the other day to kind of kick into another level of conversation with one of the people I'm mentoring. Well, they just had a corporate reorganization. Her role changed. So she said, Mike, what does this mean? What has to happen? Well, that's a different type of conversation than theoretically thinking, what's your inspiration today? Her inspiration is surviving and understanding what's going on. So that's the type of conversations when I tell people that you're hiring me, you're not hiring me to follow a mathematical formula. We're going to apply that formula in a real way in your life, personally and professionally, and show you how we can address each one of those components, but with real life examples and a real life perspective, as you mentioned. That perspective is so important. And you know what? We had a conversation. She was very down, very scared. When we got done, it's like she's extremely excited. And she had, I'm kind of on call when I work with somebody. So she called me the next day, Mike, guess what? Got this thing. Not only is it better, but I'm going to get a raise and everything else. Well, a lot of it's the energy that she brought into that discussion, as opposed to the energy that she brought to this discussion. And so my point is that formula is proving to be pretty helpful. It's conceptually a great idea. And the question is, how do you apply that into your career and your life? And that's the magic that I love to try to discover with each and every client. So that's a little bit of overview in terms of how I work with people and how we try to help them with that growth and discover really who they are personally and professionally.
Yes, you touched something important, I think, halfway through talking. And you said, usually you work with people, I'm assuming, for a period of minimum six sessions or something along those lines. And you said around session number 4, people kind of like they start thinking, oh, I went to Mike because I wanted career growth. And all of a sudden, they start opening up a little bit and saying, oh, how can I apply this to my personal life? Can you expand on that,
Yes, it's
please?
so funny, and it happened just the other day. We had to stop and acknowledge the moment. I used to do 6 sessions, 6 1-hour sessions, and that was my program. I've changed that now, Monica, where I'm anywhere from 4 to 6 months, depending on the program. And basically, what I am just we're going to work through 4 to 6 months and not apply a strict hour by hour basis, but let's help you with the situation. So I am your man. Call on me, and I'm going to help you, whether it's twice a week, 3 times a week, or once a month. You tell me when it's time to talk, and we'll do it for that period of time. So you're hiring me to represent you. So that change has really helped a lot, because number one, it allows the individual to have more circumstances, more situations that really test the knowledge that we're trying to create, and the self awareness. But it gives more time. But plus, it makes it more real. Again, there's a lot of conceptual information out there, but we need actual. How do you practice it? How do you? Well, I want to see the results of what's going on. By the way, six weeks, I can't tell the results always. Well, to your question, the fourth meeting, whether it's in 2 weeks or 2 months, is invariably my client turns to me and says, "Mike, I know this is really not in the range of things we're supposed to be talking about, but I'm making progress in my career. I feel like it's great to have you there as an advocate, but there's a whole other side of me that's really not being developed. I have no personal life, and especially with COVID.
Yes.
And so with COVID, people working 16 hours a day, they have no personal life. Then you take an economy that's shut down, society that's shut down. It's extremely challenging, extremely isolating. So how, can we talk about that? Do you have conversations about that? And the answer is a wholehearted yes, because the same things that we practice in your professional development actually work in your personal development, because you're not two people. In spite of what your employer wants you to believe, when you walk in these doors, you all of a sudden need management. You need executives to know what to think and do. And we're going to tell you what to do. We're going to show you what to do. And without us, you don't know what to do. And yet, I used to make jokes at Barclays. I was talking to our executives. They said, well, we can't let people do that. We don't know what they would do. I said, you guys, these people go home every night. They walk outside those doors. And without our help, they have babies. Without our help, they bury parents. They go to parent-teacher conferences. They actually raise families, all without our help. So they're not two people, they're one person. And so the skills that help you grow your career, and by the way, the spoiler alert, it's a lot to do with that word inspiration. We're all energy. We're all energy. And we project a certain kind of energy wherever we go, okay? And if I'm projecting energy that's different than what my intention is, or what's non-productive and unhelpful, I'm not going to get what I want, professionally or personally. So the core of the work is actually to begin to say, how do we take our authentic selves and our energy, and how do we project it in ways that magnify our personal brand, that direct it to be something bigger than, greater than, but in a way that fits each individual person. And when you do that, you then apply that to your personal life, and all of a sudden, you're a better parent. You're sending different vibrations and signals to your family. All of a sudden, you're an attractive person, energetically attractive person for others to meet. You're a more successful person because people want to understand what's going on with you. That people want to be around with you because you're sending out energy that matches your core self, your core being. And that's really what we're trying to do in the program, is to unlock that and show how, if you go inside and project that energy, you create an entirely new, sometimes it doesn't have to be entirely new, I don't want to exaggerate, but a much more effective personal brand that is entirely authentic with your core values and the core of who you are. That's why it works with your personal life. And you have experience with that, I think, Monica.
Yes, I have. Yes,
I remember
definitely, many times.
I gave you some homework assignment one time when you were going to Japan, and you're going to Japan. You were thinking about personal growth, career growth, et cetera, et cetera. I gave you
Yeah.
the homework assignment to say, if you change think about what you're projecting, and you had some pretty amazing synchronicities on that trip. I remember that.
Yes, yes. Now that that you say it, yes, I remember the homework for my trip to Japan.
Yeah.
And you know what I love about you, Mike? It's that you talk about projecting energy and vibrational match. Um, I believe that's science. Um, and I love that as an executive, you talk so openly about it. Because, like you say, we are one being. We are not the professional corporate one and then the one outside of work. We're just one. And same. All of those things come together. And I'm very grateful that you talk about it because it's not spoken in the corporate world.
Thank you, Monica. And there's a lot of legal reasons and compliance reasons why you can't possibly do that, because there might be somebody who doesn't want to talk about it. It's like, I don't buy it. I was told a long time ago, several times in my career, actually, Mike, you get too close to your employees, and you know what, you shouldn't have an open door. It's like, I'm sorry, F you. I'm going to have an open door. I'll talk to whoever I want to talk to, because as human beings, as energetic beings, who's better than the other person? Because I happen to be an organization where I happen to have some experiences where it's valued and they want me to come and do more, I'm not better than somebody else. And by the way, the flatter the organization, meaning the closer I can get to people that really know the truth, the more they'll say the truth. Suggestion boxes
Yes.
don't work because nothing ever happens, because it goes to some anonymous person who does nothing with them and blah, blah, blah. Well, so by getting close to people, not only does it feed my soul, gosh, it warms my heart to talk to somebody. The woman serving coffee on the 24th floor at Barclays, the executive floor at Barclays, a young gal serving coffee. I mean, just a delightful. She was just a ray of sunshine. I said, why don't you come to work for us? We got to start as a cashier. You know what? She's one of the top mortgage advisors now at Barclays. Amazing. I mean, so why would
Wow.
I create a hierarchical relationship with people when that energy, like you said, we're all the same. Nobody's better than anybody else. And I love to be open about it. And I love to talk about it. And it's just plain different. And I love that it's different. I started a company for my advisory services, and it's called Cimarron Advisory. Cimarron is a Native American, the Cheyenne Indian tribe, or actually Cheyenne First Nations people tribe. And Cimarron means maverick. Maverick means, different, stand alone, stay away from the herd. So that was how I was an executive. I was 35 years in banking. I was never a banker, Monica. Never a banker. People would talk about.
Yes.
I had an investment banker one time tell me, "Oh, you don't deal with we drive P&L investment bank." And I said, "To you, P&L is profit and loss. For me, P&L is people and leadership. And oh, by the way, my organization has higher value than your organization." And that was to a colleague at Barclays Capital. Pretty arrogant dude. Well, turns out we were more valuable. Turns out we do have a higher valuation. And it turns out they needed the retail bank to fund the growth plans at the investment bank. So this hierarchical notion is just insecurity by the person expressing it, and I don't buy into it. I love the flat organization, and I love the fact that we should all acknowledge each other as people of energy, just trying to figure out how we're going to live our lives in a fulfillment and happy way. And by the way, I learned as much as I learned way more than I'm ever able to express from the other people. It's beautiful.
Yes. Amazing. Can I tell the little story about you when we first met and Dennis?
Oh.
So, so just what you said about being non-hierarchical and basically mingling with everyone to make a better organization. I remember like one of the first times that I met you, we were in tandem, like in a very little small office, like near King's Cross. It was like a proper startup office. So you could see, it's not the big Barclays building. It's like you could see in 3 rooms people come in and out. And we had an intern for the summer, so 2 months or so, an American guy, Dennis. And then basically, yeah. You were walking and you waved at everyone, and I'm like, oh, cool, hi, hi. But then I think by lunchtime, like Dennis and you were like talking and chatting. And one of my other colleagues, she was like, oh my God, does he know who he is? That's like Mike Amato. He's a member of the board. And I was like, oh, that is super cool. Like they're like best buddies now. And that spoke like without words, of course, that spoke so highly of you that day. It kind of demonstrates how open you were, and it's like no hierarchy. And you're right, by just like talking with someone else in the office, it was not like member of the board cannot talk and have lunch and banter with an intern. But usually that doesn't happen because the member of the board is very busy, and they go and do their job, and they are like very thinking about this and the other. My assumption is they don't go and walk around the office to chat with everyone. And that caught my attention when I met you.
That's a great story. I remember Dennis. It's funny because I love that guy, and that's a word that's not used enough. We talk about energy and souls and everything like that, but love. I
Oh,
love that guy. He had enough nerve to come up and start talking to me and chatting to me. And meanwhile, you can see the other people were kind of nervous. It's like, okay, they won't be nervous after they get to know me, but at first, there's
yes.
that tendency to honor the position. I always think of the position as just the label on the hat. Take the hat away. Have you taken the person away? Only if they identify themselves with that position. So anyways, I love it, and I love that guy, and I love the people that I've worked with at every company. I've loved every job that I've had. I would do any job that I had. I would do it again because I loved it, because I got a chance. A lot of companies talk about being customer centric. Customers are the heart of everything we do. Really, at the heart. What's in the heart? Love. You can't say love, Mike. No, I love my customers. I love them. That's, if you're going to say it's in the heart, then use the heart, and the language of the heart is love.
Love.
And that's something that's just not talked about enough, I don't think. And a lot of people think it means you can't be a strong leader. Well, I can give you examples of if strong leadership means doing the toughest thing, which is to decruit people. I can give you lots of stories. So we just one off the top of my head. We had a situation with an investment product where the regulator ruled that Barclays investment advisors was responsible for the performance of the investment. The stock market, it was a fund. The stock market went down. The fund went down. Customers complained, and the regulator, without judgment from me, said, you must underwrite that because the market went down. People didn't know what they had. Like, okay. We closed our investment advisory. I had to lay off 750 people because if we were going to be responsible, if the customer took the profits when the market went great, but if the company had to underwrite the stock market and pay for the market not performing, we didn't belong in the business. The regulator was telling us, you actually don't belong in this business because we don't believe your customers are being either told correctly or they're also incapable of understanding complex things like markets going up and down. So the point of it is being close to employees has nothing to do with managing the company, managing the brand. Big decisions are made, hard decisions are made because you serve the brand, but you do it with love, not with anything else, just love. And I'll leave it at that.
Amazing. Like amazing. I love it because exactly it's like executive talking about love. Wow, we need more of that.
We do need more of that. This insecurity at executive levels is a massive derailer. Whenever I get a chance to coach an executive, I don't do it very often because actually it's not rewarding. I want to democratize executive coaching. I want to give the same quality of coaching that I gave to Barclays CEO in Italy, to the CEO of a bank in Chile, to the CEO of a bank in the UK. Hey, I want to give the exact same quality mentoring to a person who may be new in their career and just may be starting off. They deserve that. They deserve that type of mentoring, and I want to figure out a way to scale it, then democratize it, because it's just it does good things for me. So I'm pretty selfish because I like to do things that make me happy. But to watch people excel, and by the way,
Yeah.
you met one of my clients who on that fourth meeting had asked about personal life, and 2 years later, after we started talking about it and about the signals and vibrations we send out in the environment, within a month she met a guy. Now 2 years later,
Oh, yes.
she is
Yes.
back home
Yes.
in Australia, married, had her first baby, and is phenomenal. And I mean, it's almost instant. When you change your vibration, you change the energy that you bring and your perspective to things. You have instant success in your career and instant success at home, guaranteed. I promise. That sounds like it too much of a pitch, but I mean it.
I have a very important question on what you just said. You
Okay.
said when you changed your vibration, and then the question that came to my mind, like automatically, was like, yeah, I've heard that so many times. The question is how? And then you and I did a lot of work on emotions. Can you guide us through the how and the role of emotions, please?
Yes. Great question, Monica. Very good question. Um, okay, so if you think of behaviors that things your hands do. So the things my hands do, my actions, my behaviors are the outside of a concentric circles. That's the output of my attitudes, the way I feel, which is the output of my beliefs and my values, which are driven totally by my emotions. Okay. Um, there are the work that we did together, Monica and I did together, in trying to uncover a way to really scale this mentoring program. We're mapping out from a neuroscientist, Jaak Panksepp, 7 survival emotions. So emotions drive everything we do. And what he discovered was all mammals have hardwired in their brain. So these are actually systems that he mapped in the brain about survival, not just fight or flight. And I know we hear a lot about neuroscience and we hear a lot about survival instincts and da. No, this is actually a scientist saying, no, I'm not saying that they're present in mammals. I've mapped in the brains and how they overlap and interact and exchange information from one to another. And the high level view is this. The survival systems are a part of just being human. As I mentioned, it's hardwired in our brain. But every single action we take is driven at the core by how we interpret our environment. Now, what do I mean by that? There's 7 survival systems. Let's talk about the scarcity survival systems. Rage, fear, and panic. Whenever you don't think there's enough air in the tube in London on a hot August day when it stops and everybody's standing up, that's called panic, okay? Whenever you think that you're not going to be relevant at work anymore, that your boss likes somebody else more than you, and how are you going to tell your partner or your friends and family that your career has been derailed? That's fear. Has a palpable effect on how you act. Whenever you think somebody's taking something that's yours and you want to defend it, that's anger. So those are the scarcity systems. The middle system is all around legacy. Lust is what he labels as lust, but it's propagation of the species. It's also the propagation of your ideas. A lot of executives are working not only for the financial rewards, but also the legacy they want to create and a healthy organization that lives beyond when they go. That's you can call it reproduction, you can call it lust, but that's how it's applied in the business world. Okay, then you get to the top 3 emotions. Care. Care is when you get a chance to take care of something, you're mothering that. The mother bear with her cub. That's care. Play. 2 cubs playing. That's how you learn to win. That's how you learn to lose. You learn to play. That's where innovation comes from, is playing. So many organizations want innovation, Monica. We need innovation. It's our DNA. It's our DNA. Nonsense. It's not their DNA, and they haven't innovated anything because they don't allow failure. Play shows you how to win and lose. Innovation is about losing 4 times and winning once. So enough about play. The final system is most powerful of all, and it turns out it's the transport system between these. It's the one in the map of the brain that it actually overlaps and interacts with the other six, and that's called seeking, discovery. So imagine ancient man, you've eaten, you've lived through the day, you know tomorrow you need to go find something. We start seeking where you're going to sleep. You start seeking other things. You start looking, that's when all your other needs have been met. So seeking is a way to go from panic, fear, or rage and start discovering that process and saying, how do I transport this to the higher systems where I can activate care, play, and seeking and discover really what's going on here? We're hardwired thousands and thousands and thousands of times in our life to hit what I call the victim cycle. And that's where an event occurs. It triggers one of my scarcity emotions, and it creates a bunch of negative impacts. And guess what signal, Monica, am I sending out if I'm afraid, if I'm angry, or if I'm panicky? I'm sending those signals around. So when people say, gosh,
Yeah.
she's really great at work, but dang, she's just way too up and down. Oh man, she's just she doesn't act like somebody who should be in a higher role. And I say she, it could be he. So several my career has been derailed several times because I was conveying fear, panic, and rage, because that's how I was interpreting certain events. And so what we discovered, Monica and I, as we work together, is that there's another cycle called the empowerment cycle that people can launch. Once you learn a different perspective on that event, you can actually use seeking to discover really what's happening inside me. How can I turn this around? How can I go from being the victim to my emotions to being in control of my emotions and choose the ones that suit me and serve my purpose? Now my shoulders are down, my heart is open, I'm willing to discover, I'm not defensive, and I'm sending out different signals. And as you grow in your career, it's really important to send signals around discovery, interesting introspection, considering strategies. A strategic person is not a person who sees a lion running at them across the savannah 10 times a day. So that's a crude way to describe 7 emotions and how we want to mentor people and coach them on developing the skills to see an event or an input in a different light to totally change their vibration. I could give more examples, but let me stop there. But matches personal life and professional life 100%.
You covered a lot, and it's a very, very powerful framework that I've applied, and my friends have applied. Remember that we had a chat with some of them. And as of today, one of my friends, she's currently in Colombia, she texted me. She's like, oh, COVID, this and the other. But I have my notebook and I'm following the emotions thing that you and Mike told me about. So it's so powerful. So what I wanted to ask is, we have this framework, and then you're good at being practical. How do we use that framework and apply it on a day-to-day basis with something as simple as a pen and paper?
Okay, I'm going to try to answer that. If I don't hit the nail on the head, you help me. Okay.
Yes.
So how do we? Okay, so the first step is awareness. Of anytime you want to change something, and really that's what we're talking about, is changing. Now I know we hear about change programs all the time, but don't gloss over on your eyes, everybody. Just listen to what I'm saying. If I am in one place now, and I want something to be in another place, that's change. If I want to actually make that happen, I need to do something different. We all know that. Well, awareness that we want to change is huge. It's absolutely huge. So if I know, and if I buy into the whole notion of the victim cycle versus the empowerment cycle, what is it that I want to change? I want to change my vibration, my reaction to stimulus, because it happens when I'm driving and somebody cuts in front of me. It happens when I'm walking across the street and I have the right to walk and a motorcycle buzzes by me. It happens when somebody at work comes over and steals an idea. There's all the time, there's things that happen to us. So awareness of it and awareness of our reaction to it is what's important. The next point is internalize it is another way. So in other words, there's something called locus of control. And locus of control is this concept about how much we believe we're in control of our future. Now, I'd like to suggest you should have a very high locus of control. That's not a person who's a victim. That's a person who's empowered. So through this awareness and through a pencil and paper, if you start recording how you're responding throughout the day to certain events, and if you're honest and say, you know what, fear, panic, fear, play, curious, productive, whatever the word you want to use, how are you feeling? You're going to start to watch and see. You're going to start to create data. And in fact, Monica and I were looking at a project of saying, how can we create a tool that will give automated approach to recording these emotions, to recording my mood even. So it gives data that says, here is your vibration. So I still think it's something that would be a tremendous tool. And one day it will happen. But for now, just understand conceptually, you can do it yourself with a pen and a paper by just being aware and recording, following. Monica and I are, let's say, talking to the CEO. CEO comes and says, guys, men and women, I use guys generically, okay? Guys, we're going to go with Project Green. Monica says, fantastic. Oh, I love that. We're going to make green magnets for everybody's computer to stick to the front of the computer. We're going to have green is going to be the campaign. Customer statements are going to reflect green. And we're going to make a poem and a song about green. Well, to the CEO, how does she look? She looks engaged. She's sending a vibration of somebody who is excited and ready to go, and she's a player. That Monica, she's a player. What does Mike do? A great green. Did you think about
cross the arms?
Yeah. Consumer research says green is the third least favorite color. Did you think about that? Did you think about red? Red is the favorite color. Well, what's going on? Now I'm sending a vibration because I've interpreted the very same event that Monica is seeing positive. Well, why? And if I would stop my reaction, I would say, do you know what? I told my team that Project Red would be the one. I told them, get ready, print up the red things. And so we're going to go Project Red, guys. Trust me on this one. I look stupid to my team. I told my wife my career is based on Project Red. Now I believe that my CEO likes Monica better than me. I got to quit. Panic, fear, right? And so now who's CEO? And by the way, this is an actual example of me early in my career where wasn't the CEO at the time, but the senior manager said, Mike, I'm not sure that's a productive reaction. Monica, will you talk to Mike about how to react when you get news like this? You talk about bringing me down.
Oh, wow.
What a learning experience. Do you see? So it's human nature. Yeah, that's something else. So now not only did I lose Monica, but now Monica's my de facto supervisor. Like, oh, Lord, this is a bad day. Well, you have a few bad days and call it a crisis, but it wasn't a crisis, but it felt like it that day. You better change and not just nod and lean, but move my feet in a new direction. Well, this emotion systems is the way that really helped me start seeing how can I react in a way that's constructive and productive, not destructive and not productive. I ran out of if words, but not destructive and hurting my brain. And that's vibration, Monica. That's vibration is all it is. Is that
and that's
was that the answer to the question?
Super powerful. Yes, it's super powerful. It answered the question, and I'll summarize it as well. So if you're listening, remember that Mike talked about kind of pen and paper and saying, hey, fear, play, care. Basically, if throughout the day, especially when we're feeling great, sometimes we don't really need this, but it's like when we're going through challenges, and we're like feeling funky, let's say, if throughout the day you grab a notebook and then just record your emotions, and it doesn't have to be thousands, you can simplify them like fear, care, play, the ones that Mike discussed, then you start seeing the patterns because it's about data. It's what it shows us. It's very objective. So throughout the day, you'll start seeing data. And then even if you do it throughout a week, you start saying, oh, I have this range of emotions at 8 a.m. I have this range of emotions at 4 p.m. I have this range of emotions at 7 p.m. And different things happen throughout the day. And then you'll see the patterns in a work week. And then that helps you change because you're seeing data and you're being objective with something as subjective as emotions. And that's why it's so powerful.
Beautiful. And that's well done, Monica. Really well done.
Yeah, I was like, well, well expressed.
It is. You nailed it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're also a master interpreter too. So what I love about you is that you're able to look at that emotional chart and say, okay, this means this, this means that, this could mean this, could mean that, and it's a really great tool to create consultation. So I love that. There's another tool that's good too. Is called the derailer tool. So there's things we all do that we shoot ourselves in the foot, and that we derail our own progress. And we always want to blame external, but I can tell you, locus of control, have a high locus of control, and look inside first, because you'll find out the derailer invariably is what's driving your future.
Amazing. You read my mind. Uh, so I'm conscious of time, and there's a topic that yeah, it's a little bit sensitive, but I would like to bring it. Talking about derailers, what I've found talking with women is that there's this phrase that they have asked me, and I've asked myself, and it is, am I being too emotional? And then when I ask it myself, I'm like, maybe. But when they ask me, it's different because exactly you have perspective. You're not in the emotions. When they ask me, I'm like, oh wait, yes, there's an element of emotions are coming up, but it's a very complex environment that you are working on. Like the rules of the game are they change. It's male dominated. It's like a very complex environment. So I don't even know exactly what's the right question, but it's more of a, can you expand on this topic about women and the work and the challenges that we have? It's not just being emotional at work. It is like real structural changes that they are not favorable towards the working environment, let's say.
Yeah, it's a huge point, Monica, and I love the way you frame it up. Am I being too emotional? Well, the answer is, if your emotions are controlling your behaviors, then you're too emotional. If you're controlling your behaviors, you're controlling your emotions, then you're not too emotional. Emotional just is saying, I'm being human. I'm reacting to a stimulus, an event, in a certain way. The key is to make it the way that serves you best. Remember, the goal of working somewhere is to serve your needs. Whether it's just a job you want to then go home, that's serving your needs. Whether it's you want to become the CEO one day, whether you're launching your own business and you're trying to make it successful, you're doing this activity to serve whatever your needs are. So if your emotions control you, then you're not really, then that's probably not positive. If on the other hand, if you're deliberately using emotions, for example, I learned early on as a parent, don't discipline your child when you're angry. Never discipline your child when you're angry. Do it at a different time. You do it at a time limit, but do it without anger in your heart, and it has a whole different impact. So same thing. You're going to be emotional at work. And by the way, it's like standing on a ball. Have you ever tried to stand on a ball? You're never done. You can never really. It's the same thing as work.
Yeah. It's balancing act.
Cannot let your guard down. So you're going to have things happen that are going to drive emotion. Someday you're going to win. Some days you're going to lose. That's just how it is. Some days you feel like you're top of your game, your energy's high. Some days you're not. So it's really, if you're too emotional, it's like saying, am I too human? No, don't worry about that. The question is, am I developing the skills to channel my emotions to serve my needs? Now, especially in a male dominated world, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. And you want to say to yourselves, as you think about the vibration that you're sending out, the way you're projecting yourself through some of the tools we've talked about, but just overall saying, do I now have control over the energy I'm sending out and the vibration? The really key important thing is to then get on the other side of that and say, what are people seeing when they see me? In other words, if I was a CEO, what would I look at? Pardon me. See, a lot of times the women that I mentor, Monica, are women who sat in row one, seat A, and they're high achievers. Got good grades, do work, they embrace the challenge, they deliver. In fact, they're so valuable at their current job that the boss can't promote them because they're too good at what they do. That happens to so many women that I work with. So how do you come through and how do you break through?
I've seen that too.
Isn't that crazy? It's just
Yeah,
counterintuitive,
it's
but
crazy.
that's
And
how it is.
since you told me about it, I see it. Like I see it in different places, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Sorry, I cut your flow.
That's okay. It's sad, but it is really real. So the question is then, what do you do about this? Well, you need to then say, if I was a CEO, what would I do? And look at yourself from those eyes. Ask yourself, what's going to get the CEO fired or boss? Doesn't have to be CEO, but the boss. What's going to get the boss fired? What are they protecting? What is their emotional system, their emotional state? And the more you can project 2 layers up, the more you begin to be seen as a player, as a person who's not only just delivering, but a person who's also pretty strategic. It's not about being guarded in what you and how you think and what you say. It's actually truly feeling that you're able to consider all sides of an argument, all sides of things, and you understand where people are coming from. One lesson I gave, which I would use to kind of bring this to a point, is that I was given, pardon me, a lesson. I didn't give it. They were given a lesson by a CEO when I had a big promotion one time, and they said, when you come to the board, present the board, you need to understand how each person at that table is going to react to the information and be prepared for each. Think about it before you come in and say, she will say this, he will say that, she will think this, he will say that, and get ready to come in. It was enormously valuable in everything. And Monica, that's how you begin to win in a man's world, is to start understanding what are the things that get them fired? What are their insecurities? Why are they insecure? What do they want to see from a person in my position and 2 levels higher in terms of behaviors and things like that? What do they want to see? They have problems and they want me to solve problems. They don't want me to make problems. And by the way, my boss plays golf with him every Saturday. So I don't play golf. Well, guess what? The first person to get fired will be the one who plays
Yes.
golf, doesn't deliver, versus the person who does deliver and play and ultimately is the person who has a higher ceiling. So this is a very simple and crude way to look at it, but you can definitely look at how you send a signal. You can look at being emotional. Can be look. I'm emotional. Can hear me right now. I get excited about things. So the emotional in itself is not bad. The question is, are your emotions the emotion that you want, that serve your purpose, and that actually serve the purpose of the organization, the brand? And that plays a little bit of 360 effort has to be played so you understand the game that you're totally playing. And guys are actually pretty good at that sometimes. They're pretty good at that. And that's how they got to where they were. So that's what I would say is one answer to your question.
Oh,
Made you
wow.
think.
I'm like, yes, it made me think. I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's
Yeah,
chess.
it's like I'll have to re-listen to my own podcast.
Aha.
Yeah.
See, I knew it.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. So we've covered a lot today, like a lot. So probably if you're listening, I would recommend that when you finish this, you let it sink in and then kind of like take one concept. If you have to re-listen to this again, just to see like, oh, which are the concepts that we covered? Like take one idea and play with that idea for a few days. Yeah, because like we did cover a lot of material that it's not spoken about in LinkedIn, nor Harvard Business Review, nor coaching. It's a very specific approach and methodology based on someone with like years of experience in growth and development, like personal growth, career growth, and banking and knowing the industry and the insights. So it's like super powerful. So, Mike, as we get to the end, any final remarks that you have for the women or men listening to the podcast?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning men, of course, because we made a lot of generalizations, which could
Yeah.
be destructive, and I don't want. That's not the message. Look, what I would say is this: it's really cool that everybody watching this is interested in being better at what they're doing, growing, finding out how they can really unlock all their potential. I love that that's what you're helping people do, Monica. I love the way that you do it, and your advice was good. How do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant at a bite at a time. We
A
just talked about
bite at
5
time.
years of stuff, right? And gosh, we could talk for another 2 hours about different things. The question is, what pertains to each person? Start slowly. I would expand your locus of control. A big derailer is victim. Big derailer is to externalize our problems. He's bad, she's bad, he's mean, she's not nice. They didn't take my budget, they did this, they. I would start by expanding your locus of control and say, wait a minute, what do I do to change reality? What do I do to create today's reality? And what do I do to create a different reality? Just kind of be with that. It's probably the most fundamental, most powerful thing you can do for your life just on your own. And that's, so I thought your advice was very good in terms of trying to make it bite-sized. It's a lot of stuff we talked about today. Hopefully it was inspiring, not inspiring, hopefully it inspired some thoughts. Hopefully it was motivating in terms of some things you might want to think about. And hopefully it challenged you a little bit. Hopefully it surprised you as well. That's what I would say.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. It was an absolute pleasure and honor having you today. There is a wealth of wisdom in this 1 hour. Just very last question to you. Where can we find you? Now I'm like, I want to know more. I'm like, where do I go and where do I find Mike Amato?
All right. There's two places where you can go right now. Number one is I've got a website. By the way, I do corporate speaking. So as the economy's opened back up, my website's written from a standpoint of doing speaking engagements. So amatosparks.com is the website, and so you can find me there and hear more about my philosophies, a little bit more about my background, and again, that's targeted for speaking, but also then it does talk about one-to-one mentoring in one of the sections. So amatosparks.com, and then there's Why Not You by Mike Amato on Facebook. Why Not You by Mike Amato is locus of control. And so I say, why not you? Why aren't you the CEO? Why aren't you the senior manager? Why aren't you having the successful career that you want to have? You actually can. And I don't want to make it a cliche, you can do it thing, but you can do it. There's definitely ways you can do it. And it talks about ways to make that happen. So those are the two ways you can find me. Email me at Mike Amato at amatosparks.com. Also, if you have questions and want to follow up, and that's the best way to find me right now for information. You can also reach me through Monica always if there's something I can do for you or your company. If I can help you change your culture in your company and help all of your colleagues, and I'd love that. I'd love that. So that'd be so much fun. Make the world better for thousands of people. My career is based on that, and I'd love to do it again.
Yes, and you're great at that. So, ta-da! Perfect match.
Thank you for that. The mutual admiration here today.
Thank you, Mike. Well, one more time, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, and genuinely for sharing all of this wisdom, because not everybody does. So thank you for your generosity and your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, for having me. And maybe we'll do it again one day. We talk about something different, like how to make wine. We can talk about that.
Oh, yes.
Anything you want.
Thank you, Mike. Ladies, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.